Welcome you all to Nandip Academy for UPSC and MPSC. Here we are going to analyze the Hindu editorial dated 10th December 2020. Let's begin. The first article that we would be analyzing is called The Road Taken. In order to analyze this article, we would first need to understand the meaning of a word that is fait accompli. The fait accompli means a thing that has happened in the past, and those which are affected by this thing have no option but to accept it. And this is true of this article because the people who are going to be affected by the Chennai-Salem Greenfield highway have no option but to accept it because of the Supreme Court's judgment, which has given go for acquiring agricultural land for construction of this Greenfield highway. And it is also held the environmental clearances can be obtained before its construction. So in this context, this Chennai-Salem Greenfield highway can be regarded as a fait accompli. Let's see the various PowerPoint presentations in this regard. The first is, what is the judgment of the Madras High Court? The Madras High Court gave a judgment in favor of environmental protection, agricultural protection, preservation of rural livelihood over economic benefits. While giving its judgment, the Madras High Court related and relied on the judgment from US that did not permit such projects that hampered the sustainable development, that hampered the environment, and that did irreversible damage to resources. So the Madras High Court relied on this particular judgment of the US High Court. But what has the Supreme Court to say in this regard? We will see that too. First, let's understand some factual information about the Salem Greenfield Highway. It is worth 10,000 crore. It is an 8-lane highway, and the Supreme Court has given nod for its land acquisition. What does the Supreme Court have to say in this regard? So the Supreme Court has upheld the notifications relating to acquiring the agricultural land for the Chennai-Salem Greenfield Highway. It is also held that environmental clearances are obtained before its construction. Authorities cannot obtain environmental clearances at stage of land identification. This can be possible only after land identification is complete. This is what the Madras High Court had believed. But the Supreme Court has actually said the Madras High Court is wrong in claiming that environmental and forest laws clearance are required even before initial land acquisition notice. So in this regard, the Supreme Court has actually overruled, or we can say it has gone ahead of the Madras High Court judgment, which was in favor of environmental protection. The next is, we need to understand that with this order of the Supreme Court, we can say that it has upheld the centre's power to notify any stretch of land, including Greenfield land, as a national highway. This is what is the meaning of the Supreme Court judgment. And we need to understand that when the Supreme Court has given this judgment, it has probably not relied to its earlier judgment that it had given in the Karnataka Industrial Area Development Board in 2006, that actually laid down the principle that before acquiring land for development purpose, adverse environmental impact should be studied, should be comprehended, and only then can a go-ahead be given for acquiring that land. But here, in the case of the Chennai-Salem Greenfield Highway, it is observed that the Supreme Court has forgotten its earlier judgment or its earlier principle. And in conclusion, we can say that we need to understand that the Supreme Court's judgment is more development-centric judgment, and that is why it has upheld these notifications. But what is required is a holistic view is required, where there has to be a balance between development and between livelihoods, whether it is of human or agriculture or rural or wildlife. That there has to be a balance. And in this regard, we can conclude that this project, that is the Chennai-Salem Greenfield Highway, is a fait accompli. That is, people have to accept it and they have no option but to accept it. Let's move on to the next article. The next article is titled the testing limits, and here we are going to see the tour which is taken by Indians to Australia. So in order to understand this article, again we will see the meaning of two words. First is down under. Australia is known as down under for its position in the southern hemisphere, and also for the discovery of Australia began when the European explorers searched for a land under the continent of Asia. Because of these two reasons, Australia is referred to as a down under country. Next word we need to understand is that of is a word called biobubble. Biobubble is basically a safe and a secure environment that is isolated from the outside world and is accessible only by a set of people who are approved to enter these premises. So that is biobubble. Let's understand the India-Australia encounters so far. So 3 one-day internationals have been played so far between India and Australia, in which Australia is leading 2-1. 3 T20s have taken place between India and Australia, in which India is leading by 2-1. Let's see the next slide. This is about the history of Indian tours to Australia, which began in the year 1947-48 when Lala Amarnath was the captain, and continued till the year 2018-19 and till late when India won the Test Series 2-1. We need to remember that when India won this Test Series, Steve Smith and David Warner, the two backbones of the Australian cricket team, were absent because of ball tampering. Why does Australia have an advantage in this context? It is because it is definitely their home ground, and anybody would be more comfortable playing in the home ground. So that is the first obvious advantage for Australia. And if you see the one-day international performance of Australia in these matches, they have always done well and they've won with a huge score. Apart from that, if you see the Australian team, it has very strong contenders. It has very strong men, whether it is their batting line as well as the bowling line. Both are very strong, and so overall it's a very strong team with strong players. And if you have to name a few, we can talk about Steve Smith, we can talk about Marnus Lasabunje, we can talk about Tim Paine, we can talk about Mitchell Starc. So these are men in the Australian team who add to its courage, who add to its strength. And to talk of India, we can say that T20 is where India scored well. The pillars in the Indian team are Hardik Pandya, the spinner T. Natarajan. If we have to talk about the batting line, we have a good batting line, we have a good bowling line also. But the challenge would be when India will have to play on Australia without Kohli, because in the first match, as Kohli will be leaving for his paternity leave, there is a big question mark on Rohit Sharma returning, and the batting line will have to depend on Pujara, Rahane, who would be the captain, acting captain, and Mayank Agarwal. And yes, we have to surely mention Pujara, 521 runs in the last tour, and the bowling line would be dominated by Jasprit Bumrah, Mohammad Shami and Ashwin. So we can rely on our batting line and our bowling line in spite of the absence of Kohli and Rohit Sharma. So that's all from this article. Thank you. See you in the next session with the next article. Thank you.